Hello and welcome back to OpsMx. My name is Bob Boulay, and I wanted to walk you through today how to initiate a DAST scan using the Delivery Shield ad hoc or on-demand scanning. The very first thing we need to do is we need to create an application profile. So that application profile here, as you can see, we're using OWASP to actually produce the scan results. We'll fill out a form. Obviously, as we go through this, you'll select the various options. A DAST scan or an API security scan. In this case, we're going to select a DAST scan. And then ultimately, you'll give the profile a name or what account you want to assign it to, the service URL. Now, OWASP ships with a number of policies. Now, in our documentation, you'll see a list of the various details around these policy sets. For the most part, people are going to use the default policy set, but each policy set puts emphasis on different parts of the DAST scan. So in this case here, we're just going to choose the default policy. You can set things like retries and thresholds along with any delays that you need to build in, as well as giving the application or signifying the application name, and then ultimately adding these things in terms of things like authentication mode, if in order to do or conduct the test successfully, or if the policy set that you've selected requires the bot to be able to log in, you want to go ahead and set up a login or a sort of a service account there so that ultimately it can do that, right? So you'll go ahead and fill that information in along with login indicators, log out indicators. So let it know when it's help it understand when it's on the page that requires a login or when it's been logged out, so it can confirm that that actually has happened, along with understanding what the username and what the password field is for the application. So again, as you configure this, you're going to be telling us a little bit about the application that is actually going to be scanned. Now, once you've done that, you will come over to our scan. Now, there's a couple of different ways, by the way, to implement this scan. One of them is on demand, right? So an on demand scan allows you to go ahead and actually go ahead and trigger a scan. So if I were to come in here, I can basically set this up without integrating into a CI/CD process. I can go ahead and actually just say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm scanning this application. I want to do it now using Zap for DAST. This is the account that I want to use as we set up earlier in that profile. This is my service URL, and I want to do a web level scan. Now, ultimately, I can set this up as well to run this scan on a schedule. But either way, once I've set this up, I'll have that scan ready to go. The other option is we can actually implement this scan as part of your CI/CD process as well. A lot of our customers will go down the path of integrating this process when they deploy an application, whether they deploy it to staging. Sometimes they'll do it post-production deployment as well, to make sure that they're monitoring those things. And so this is a way to do it on demand or on a schedule. The other way is to ultimately hook this up to your CI/CD system. We provide you with a number of scripts and GitHub Actions and Jenkins scripts that will allow you to go ahead and actually trigger all this, and then ultimately allow us to collect those results. Now, once you've set this all up, you can then go ahead and ultimately start doing the scans, right? So here, if I look here, I'm scanning an application called Nextcloud. Again, if I looked at the setup here, you can see I've given it my Nextcloud instance. This is the service URL. I set up the profile earlier, the application profile earlier, so it knows all it needs to know about my application, how to log in, what the login and the username and password fields are, so it can go ahead and populate that. So again, I think this is one of those situations where all I have to do now is trigger that scan. And so if I were to come in here and say, hey, let me view the results, I've got a rescan button here. So let me go ahead and actually click the rescan button, and it will go ahead and actually start rescanning my application. And we'll look at those new results as soon as it's done. In the meantime, I've actually done a scan already, and as you can see here from that scan, I've gotten all of the information I need about what I need to do in order to secure this application. And so if you look at the results that we provide, we're letting you know sort of whether or not there's a risk level here. Sort of it's a risk level medium. If it's just an informational thing, hey, we found this thing, we thought it was interesting, you should know about it. And again, we also know and can start to attach the CWE information here. And then ultimately, what we're giving you is a description of the problem, a reference so you can look at more information about this problem, and then a solution, right? A suggested solution. And so this here will run for all of your DAST scans. Will produce all of this information. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, this is sort of more on-demand scanning. And you can see here I found a couple of high criticality issues here in this application. So again, these are things that I'm going to want to pay attention to. But again, I can integrate this into my deployment process. I can do it, again, like this, just on a schedule and send out alerts when I see a problem. And again, I think this is fairly straightforward in terms of, setting up the pieces that you need. And as you can see here, I had clicked the rescan button, so it's rescanning the application now, right? And it will go ahead and ultimately let me know when that's completed. We're looking at results from July 18th. It will refresh this scan once it's done, and I will have, again, all the information that I need, sort of about these scans. And again, I think the other piece of this to keep in mind is if you do this as part of a CI/CD process, we're actually able to start to apply policies as well. So we're actually able to not just give you raw results, but also look at each finding and figure out whether or not it violates a policy. Because some people will look at something and say, you know what, I've got a compensating control in place for this particular medium severity item, right? I've put a compensating control in based on the CWE, and so one of the things you can do with integrating this into your CI/CD is we can actually make it or evaluate it against a policy, and the policy is changeable. So you could say, I know I have a compensating control in place for this application, so just for this application, ignore this finding, right? So again, that's another possibility. But I think just showing you how to get to a place where we can actually run a DAST scan, it's really easy. And again, I think it's just a matter of leveraging the robust feature set based on the policy profiles that are integrated already in Zap to be able to go ahead and do that. Hopefully this was informational and helped you understand sort of how to run one of these scans. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to us or join our public Slack as part of our on-demand scanning sandbox and ask questions there. We've got it constantly staffed with experts. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.